Okay, I'm doing RM, his birth chart, and the reason I'm doing it is because I'm in a Carl Jung YouTube group, so to speak, where there's readings every day, every other day, and I'll put the link below for the Carl Jung group, so you can check that out if you wish. But it came to my attention, the group BTS came to my attention because of the group, and it was told to me in one of the talks that in the reading group that the BTS have a new album that's just come out, and it's the Map of the Soul, the Persona, and Carl Jung was referenced by the group, saying that, you know, part of his work, because Carl Jung was basically doing the map of the soul, or, you know, the persona. That's where that comes from. And out of that, I decided to look at RM's chart. And the other thing I'm happy to do is that to look at other band members as I go through, you know, maybe the next month or something, but that would have to be at request if anybody is interested, because I'm not sure if people are going to be. But I think if we look at RM's chart and then we take it from there, I'll explain the relation to Carl Jung as I go through, and about how an astrology chart works. So you can get to understand how the persona can be seen also in an astrology chart. Carl Jung was famous for doing psychoanalysis. He was born a long time ago. He's not with us anymore. I don't know how many people know who Carl Jung is out there, but I'm going to go with the slides now. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you what I know. So what we've got here is RM Kim Nam-Joon. It's his natal chart. And what we're going to do is go to the next slide. And I'll explain here that we have currently, and I searched online for this, so Kim Nam-Joon, better known as RM, is a South Korean rapper, songwriter, singer, and record producer. And he is the main rapper and leader of the South Korean boy group BTS, managed under Big Hit Entertainment. In 2015, he released his first solo mixtape, RM. So I got this from Wikipedia. I've got that he was born on the 12th of September 1994, and he's currently 24 years old. So the other thing that, if anybody knows out there, that would really help me, that what we've got is, we've got this place here was given in South Korea as birth, but then also I took this as his birthplace. I wouldn't know how to pronounce that, maybe Ilsan-gu, Korea, South Korea. So if anybody got a better update than that for me, I would appreciate. Somebody of the BTSARMY may know out there. And then I'm going to show you with this now. It's going to be a process, okay? So you're going to have to, if you want to know more about him, you're going to see through his birth chart how this works. So what we have is, first of all, I'm going to explain the Map of the Soul persona, the album. For some reason, it's been related back to Carl Jung and Carl Jung's work. So this is how I got to hear about BTS. And it came through this reading group on YouTube for Carl Jung. So Carl Gustav Jung, which is going to be interesting that if people don't know, was a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who founded analytical psychology, and Jung's work was influential in the fields of psychiatry, anthropology, archaeology, literature, philosophy, and religious studies. And he was born on the 26th of July, 1875 in Switzerland, and he died the 6th of June, 1961 in Switzerland. Okay, again, I got that from Wikipedia. So next here, next slide. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you, when we do a birth chart, what we've got is, we've got the idea that when we have the time of birth, we're actually going to be spot on understanding where the planets fall, what houses they fall into. So this birth chart, it's been flying around that the birth time was 12 noon. And there are other ideas that the birth time is unknown. So as a result of that, I've got two charts here which you can see. Okay, you've got this birth chart, which is birth time 12 noon, and this birth chart is basically time unknown. Even though it says 12, it becomes default at 12 noon, and it changes because in astrology, when we know the time, then we can understand the rising sign of, and the rising sign is the personality, what people see in the world, how they see us. And it's like the cloak we put on. And without the birth time, then basically we do not know what time, you know, we don't know what the rising sign is. So then it goes to default. And the default is the first house will then become Aries if we don't know the birth time. The other thing that we have is that we don't know what, because of that, we don't actually know what houses the planets are falling in. It's basically, because it's just default, we're just guessing, okay? Because you can see here, if you look very closely, for instance, I'm going to give you an example. This is birth time noon, and this is unknown time, although it's default, a default time. So you can see, for instance, this planet here, and I'm going to show you, it goes to, that's called Mars, and that goes to Saturn. And there's a line there that's called a trine, okay? This is called a trine. So this isn't an astrology lesson, but I need to explain this to you first so that as I read his chart, we can get to the bottom of what we're doing. Now, if you look here, you've got that sign there, Mars, which is up there. And then it goes to Saturn, it's still trine. It's exactly the same configuration. So these configurations are called aspects. The lines are called aspects, and the aspects are the same. The only thing that's different is that if we assume that his birth time is known, and it was 12 noon of the 12th of September, 1994, then we're going to have more of an understanding about who he is. With this chart, with the time default sort of unknown, so to speak, we're not really delving that deep. We can't delve that deeply with this chart. So I'm going to use this chart as an example. And then if anybody out there knows the actual birth time and whether this birth time of 12 noon is correct, then somebody can tell me. So here goes. The next slide I'm going to show you now. So I hope that makes sense. And if anybody's got any questions, then you can feel free to let me know. So what we have here is we have the birth chart that I'm going to use, which is the birth time being 12 noon of the 12th of September 1994. And what you're going to see as a result here is that you're going to see that the planets fall in particular houses. And these are the planets, and the rising sign that we have is Scorpio. So a rising sign is the cloak we wear in the world. It's like the first thing that people will notice about us. And one thing I did find was that I think that Scorpio is very deep, and they are into a lot of psychology. It's it's basically the sign of psychology and delving deep. So it could be that he was born at 12 noon, but again, people are going to have to get back to me if he wasn't, and I will redo it if I need to. But let's suppose that he was born at 12 noon on the 12th of September 1994. What we've got is a planet called Pluto, which is in the 12th house, and it's in Scorpio. And his sun sign is in Virgo, so we know he is a Virgo, and the sun sign is in Virgo. So I'm going to say the planets, the configurations of like this is called a conjunct here, the sun conjunct Chiron, those do not change. On the other chart that I showed you, the default chart, that they're going to be the same degrees apart, but all we've got that's different is that we've got houses that the planets are possibly in. So let's start here. We're going to say that the sun is in the 10th house here, but we do know the sun is in Virgo. His sun is in Virgo. So the sun represents his will and purpose, sense of vitality and evolving higher self. In Virgo, it is mutable earth and rules the digestive system. And your ruling planet is Mercury and also the asteroids. Virgo people tend to be very conscious of details and may also appear nervous or obsessed over health issues. They're likely to be neat and orderly, and at least in some area of life, although they may exhibit the opposite tendency in cases where they have not found the guiding principle of organization. They love their work, they love being of service, and they love gathering the fruits of the material world as symbolized by the harvest. Basically, we've got here that they are a good conversationalist with wide-ranging knowledge and interesting ideas, and can be analytical and perhaps overly fond of detail with perfectionist tendencies, and may sometimes miss out on the big picture by concentrating on the micro details. It also benefits the person who has this to learn to find the time and discriminate, and with criticism be discrimination. And there can be issues with criticism of self with Virgo in the 12th house or of others. Your mission in life is the purification, your activity in pursuit of your goals, manifesting your inherent love of excellence in all of your strivings. So with the sun in Virgo, we can see part of that personality shining through for him. Now, the interesting thing is the 10th house is the public eye. So it is possible that he was born at 12 noon because he is in the public eye, and that's where he's shining. And this sign here is called Chiron. I will come to that, but that's called the wounded healer. We all have it in our charts, and it's the wound that we have as a child and that we grow out of as we grow into adults. And it's something that the thing that we have to work on. So the sun in the 10th house is basically about career and vocation. It's about what we're doing. It's about the ambitious positions that we're seeking for ourselves, and to be honorable and noble, and have leadership. And it's also to identify with the career. They identify with career with the sun in the 10th house, which I can see that he is highly identified with his career. And it says that they may feel more comfortable behind a mask or title than directly showing themselves to others. And they may be closely identify themselves with their parent, the mother, taking their goals and priorities as their own. And they're stimulated by the need to receive recognition and primed to succeed at whatever they choose to do. So we can see that he is fulfilling a role that's in the public eye, and that's where the sun is shining. So then we've got his moon. So his moon is in Sagittarius, and the moon in Sagittarius gives a freedom-loving personality, which may be inclined to restlessness, and they can be very idealistic and see the best in everybody. So they see the best in everyone with the moon in Sagittarius. They are happy and fun to be around, and they can be a bit impatient. They can react to situations with action rather than with reflection. So that can be a good thing as well. It's not always, it depends what we're doing in life, but to basically being able to react to, very quickly can be quite good when you're in the music industry, for instance, when you're on stage and you're doing your words or you're in front of the public eye. We've got also that idealism should be learnt to temper it down, and with reality and setting out achieving high aspirations. So that it's asking to be realistic as well here. If the moon is in the first house, which if he was born at 12 noon, it will be in the first house, then it means an emotional, sensitive person, and they've basically experience of self-image projected onto the world. Your identity in the world depends on your environment, and you will reflect the environment around you in an emotional and sensitive way. And he does seem like clearly an emotional and sensitive person, and that's a good thing. Like, being emotional and sensitive is a good thing, and we can see that when he talks about love. I've seen a few video clips where he talks about love and being loving, and we've got to love ourselves. It says that you are likely to possess a very strong imagination, which clearly he does. You are comfortable when you are in action, and we can see that he appears, on stage, and he seems to be very comfortable in front of people. You feel a need to be recognized and may feel resentful if others do not perceive your efforts. Clearly he's been in the music industry for years, and he's really stuck at what he has done with his music as well. So that also says that with the moon in the first house, that you are considerate and you've got an observant manner, and you may need to recognize that others are not as sensitive as you are. So this sensitivity is, you know, it can be a positive thing. We can't say sensitivity is a bad thing. We need more sensitive people in this world to make the world a better place. And you can clearly see what's been going on with that group, and, you know, people helping each other as a result of this band existing. So then we've got Mercury. Now the Mercury is the way one communicates. Mercury is communication, okay? What I didn't say is that the moon is our emotions in astrology. So it's the way we feel inside, and, you know, our emotions change very quickly. Like the moon moves very fast around the sun, or the earth, sorry. So we're basically, you know, our emotions are very changeable as human beings, you know, and so that's what the moon is. And the Mercury is our communication. It's the way we communicate in the world, inwardly and outwardly. And his Mercury is in Libra. So if we know it's in Libra, his Mercury is definitely in Libra, but the birth time, again, 12 noon, if he was born at a different time, it may fall in a different house. That's all that's going to change there. So let's say that his Mercury in Libra gives a positive mental attitude with terrific judgment and sensitivity. You are a diplomatic speaker, and you are usually very aware of the effects of your words have on others. You express your ideas in balance and fairness. Your capacity to see all sides of a situation can make it difficult for you to come to a decision. You have a highly developed sense of aesthetics. You can also be something of a perfectionist. You want your surroundings to be aesthetically pleasing, and therefore your living space must be neat and tidy. It benefits you to let go of being too fussy and to stay true to yourself when you need to make decisions. So if it is in the 11th house, then basically this is the area, we can see it here, but based on time, I keep coming back to that because it's really important, because any astrologers watching this will, you know, it could differ if the time is not correct here. So with Mercury here, basically this is in the 11th house, is about groups, and it's about being humanitarian. So again, that's very interesting that he's got Mercury there, and he's got, you know, using words in such a beautiful way, and able to write poetry and music and all sorts of things. So then we're now going to go to Venus, and a lot of people think Venus is just about love in astrology, but what it's about, Venus is about our needs, our inner needs and our outer needs, and what we value. And it also is to do with the way we hear ourselves. It's like the hearing, it's how we hear. So Venus in Scorpio, he's definitely got Venus in Scorpio, I know that much, okay? So Venus in Scorpio gives a very intense love of nature, and also being obsessively self-involved at times. And again, that's a good thing. When you're obsessive about something good, that can be an amazing, wonderful gift to the world. We've got the passions of Scorpio are very intense, okay? And that's, you know, it's the house of psychology as well. It's death, rebirth, marriage, taxes, and, you know, so many different things. It's about transformation, Scorpio. So having Venus there means that he's a sensual and passionate person, and they tend to relate even to casual contacts on a deeper, more personal level. So he is having, you know, contacts with everybody on a very deep personal level with the world. One, I've seen the few videos that I've seen. One, I think, where he approached the UN, I saw that, and I was very impressed with what I saw. So they're not superficial. There is no such thing as superficial contact with this Venus in Scorpio. It's very deep. They basically, reading here, what I've got is, so basically we've got, this is about transformation and passion, okay? And it's about being caring in relationships and caring in relationship energy. So again, we're not sure if it's in the 12th house, but if it is, it's to do with the spirituality and the totality of consciousness. It's a brilliant placement for that for what he's doing, from what I can see. You know, it basically is a very, the mind is full of images, and it can create beauty. And clearly with his words and the imagery we're seeing, that's what I believe I'm seeing. So then we've got Mars in the 8th house. Now, Mars is the way we go about doing things in the world. It's the way, it's our passion. It's like how we get out of bed in the morning and we're going to go for it. And we're like Rambo, you know, I'm going to do this. This is what I want in my life. It's passion. It's our passion. He has his Mars in Cancer, and Mars in Cancer gives a passionate and intense personality, proud, strong-willed and stubborn. They can basically have deep instinctive levels of being powerful, and they're quite sure of themselves as well. You have a noticeable presence and a strong influence on those around you. So maybe, you know, if you know more about this, then you'll probably see that that is the case. You also enjoy giving the gift of your affection, and partnership sharing is an important mode of activity for you. So again, we're seeing that with this placement. We're seeing that there's a lot of giving to the world. If Mars, it says, basically here it says that we're dealing with higher levels of consciousness with this placement, or what we're dealing with people, and it says that you can be a great healer. In any case, you can benefit when you cultivate self-discipline and strive to make sure that you're objective and that your motivations are about others and not just about yourself. So it's about sharing. So where are we going next? We're going to, so again, you can see that archetype, I can see that going on in this chart, and the reality of what's possibly going on there. And the sign of Cancer is about security, and it's about family, and it's about sharing, and it's about security. So it's a good placement for him based on what he's doing and who he is. So now we have Jupiter, and Jupiter is again in Scorpio, and I'm going to read what that means to you. So Jupiter in the 12th house or sign gives you a quiet and unassuming personality. So maybe he is a bit more quiet in private. I think people who write are. I've known that myself, that I like to write and I can be quite quiet when I'm doing that sort of thing. It says that they're very considerate and very kind and friendly and easygoing. They need to feel an emotional resonance in order for work to be satisfying. So he clearly has an emotional resonance with his work. They have a personal code of conduct to which they are true, no matter what the public opinion is, or convention or dictate. So you can see, again, he's sticking to what he believes in. It says that they're very imaginative, and they can be very sensitive with that placement as well. And again, sensitive is a good thing in this world. You know, we've lost a lot of sensitivity, and I've seen that with the BTSARMY, when I was shown that in the Carl Jung group I was in, how all of these people are coming together and helping people across the world on Twitter. It's absolutely amazed me. And also that this is going to bring Carl Jung back into society, and his name, he was a brilliant man, Carl Jung. And, you know, I've been reading him for a few years now, and it's been very valuable to my own healing. So I'm going to go a bit further here. Where was I? On Jupiter. So they basically, they don't like any cruelty, and meaning that they don't want to see that in the world. It's very, you know, they're more to do with love and being helpful to other people. And they're interested in the universe. They're not, you know, it's a big thing. They're very interested in the details in life. And because the Jupiter is in Scorpio, which we know it is, Jupiter is in Scorpio, and they've got a very shrewd and careful personality. They've got very good judgment, and they've got excellent focus and make a good worker because of it. So, you know, clearly you can see that's happening in the group. It's really working out well. They have an innate sense of where they want to be, and that's where they'll usually be found doing what they're passionate about. And there can be a lot of sensuality there. They basically have a gift of observation. So clearly I can see that as well with this chart, that the observation of, you know, being interested in humanity and other people. And they can possess the powers of a healer and being mystic. They will also likely to go deeper, in a deeper connection to their higher power as they go through life. And that's it for Jupiter in Scorpio. So then what we have is Saturn. And Saturn is to do with time, karma. And karma, again, is not a bad thing. Karma is something that we go through life and we're figuring out who we are and then how we behave. You know, if we're kind, nicer things tend to happen to us. But, you know, sometimes things happen to people, whether they're, you know, that aren't very pleasant, even if they've been through, you know, even if they are a good person, people go through hardships. So really karma and time, we can understand time, and that structure, that's the other thing that Saturn is to do with, our structure. So it's to do with our bones and our teeth as well, the body. So I'll read what it means, that because it's in Pisces. So Saturn is in Pisces here. Saturn in Pisces gives a deepening and concentration, or it can give a blockage with regard to connection to spirituality, unity with all. That is, they have a serious self-conscious personality. They can be moody and introspective and are likely to be compassionate and sympathetic to the problems of others, which we can see. And again, moody and sympathetic means, you know, I know when I've been writing poetry and stuff like that, you know, the reason I have the ability to do that is because I have my moods. If I was just happy all the time, for instance, then I wouldn't get to the depths of me. So being moody, again, is not a bad thing. You know, we're not going around hurting other people. It's just our emotions and the way they work. So here we've got that you may feel at times feel that life is hard or that it's beyond your conscious control. So I don't know what his childhood was like, but that placement there shows that communication in childhood, you know, that may have been a bit hard for him, and maybe that's why he was writing and stuff like that, that maybe that's why he dug deep to heal, and that's why he understands about humanity and about the pain in the world, because if he's been through that himself and then he's talking about self-love, he's teaching what he's had to learn for himself. And that's generally what we do. We pass on our wisdom. It says that they can withdraw from the world, and they can try too hard sometimes to achieve in the world or to try and control things. But I will say, with any chart, this is like a snapshot of the heavens when you were born. It's the exact time you were born. And after your birth, what we have is that the planets move from around the chart. These are called transits. So for anybody that's never seen an astrology chart before, that will help me telling you that the transits are where the planets move. So an example would be when he was born, his Pluto was 25 degrees. Here on the chart, you can see on the AC, which is the beginning of the chart, the ascendant, and it's moved all the way here. So that planet actually takes about 250 years to move around a chart, to give you an example. And another example, if you don't know about astrology, the moon takes 28 days roughly to move around a chart. So the moon today, because this chart is dated the 13th of April, the moon is here. So it's going to take 28 days. And to make it even simpler for you to understand, that's his birthday. It was there. So the sun right now is here. It's gone in a year from his birthday. It's moved all the way around to here. And then on his birthday, that symbol there will be right back on top of 19 degrees there. And that will mean that it's his birthday. So it says here that, we'll go on with this. Saturn in Pisces, we're going to go a bit deeper there. It says that they can try too hard. We've read that bit. Your true path lies in soul level self-sacrifice rather in the more mundane life of worldly events. So we can see he's sacrificing quite a lot of his life by what he's been doing, and he's so public now and so famous that that's what happens. You possess, in a very concentrated form, the urge for spiritual evolution that is present in all of us. So we all have that in all of us. We all want to evolve and get to know source, or you can call it God, or whatever you want, you know, or a higher power. You know, we've all got different beliefs, but I do believe I have a soul and that I'm not just this body. I believe that I'm more than this. And it's not a religious thing. It's just an understanding that there is more to life and that we're all in this together. Then what we have is that I'm going to go now to Uranus. So Uranus is about it's about breaking free from limitations, and you can see that that is in his second house in Capricorn. So I'm going to go here. So I hope this is interesting for you. It may be, if you've never seen an astrology chart before, it may be a bit confusing, but it sort of makes sense once you've seen one, and then if you see your own and you understand it, then you begin to understand what all of these symbols are and what they mean. And the beautiful thing is that when you understand it, you're able to help yourself to evolve and to understand yourself. And Carl Jung, who they referring to the map of the soul, the persona, Carl Jung was that gentleman. He used to read charts of some of his patients. He was a psychoanalyst, but he actually used what I'm doing now to help people heal. So that's interesting to know that he worked with over 500 couples. And I will say, before I go on to the next one, the books. So this, I'm going to show you this book here. If you can see this, it's Carl Jung, and it's The Modern Man in Search of a Soul. And this is a very old book, this one. I think it was written 1935, this book, but it's extremely old, this book. And that's a beautiful book that I have read. And then another book of Carl Jung, which I'm yet to read, is this one. And that's The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious. And they're very deep, but they've helped me to, you know, make myself a better person and heal myself reading those books. They're very deep, but they're very beautiful. And I'm very impressed that Kim Nam-Joon has basically been looking at Carl Jung, or bringing him back into the world, and that he understands the depths of that work. It's a very impressive thing to see that happen. So what I've got now is that we're going to go, let's see, Uranus in Capricorn. So this gives Uranus in Capricorn, that's the sign of Capricorn, gives an ambitious and willful individual who is rebellious of authority and also somewhat hung up about it. With this placement, you are a definite nonconformist. So a nonconformist, you probably know what that means, or maybe not, but it means that you're not conforming to the rest of the world. And you can see that with the guys, you know, they're being themselves. They're not conforming to being like everybody else. They're doing, you know, they're dressing as they wish and making music that's really out there and really beautiful and different. So that's they're not conforming, they're nonconformist. And with this placement he has here, it says you have a forward-thinking mentality and will not be satisfied with existing stagnant political solutions. And you can see that when he addressed the UN, you know, he's doing it in a very different way. It says you have a strong imagination and you are sure of yourself, that you cannot be argued out of your opinion, and which can be eccentric at times. And again, I see that as a good thing. You know, we need people who are going to stand up in this world and make a difference for younger people, and, you know, talking about self-love and loving self. It's a beautiful thing to see somebody doing that publicly, because we do need to do that as human beings. There's so much suffering in this world. It says you have the impulse toward prestige and authority, but you find you can get bored with conventional approaches to attain worldly success. So he's not being conventional. He's not, you know, out there making music and doing it just for the money. He's been doing it for worldly success to make the world a better place. It says you can go through many different jobs and careers, which is interesting because every new track is going to be a new job, so to speak, if we look at it that way. Or every time they create something, it's new. You may also come into conflict with others over what perhaps merely are gratification issues. And you can see, being that public, you know, there are going to be issues with other people. That's just the way it is. You do better when your motivation is to benefit society rather than personal gain, which I can see he's doing it for, not for personal gain, but for society. And your challenge is to move from quick knee-jerk reactions against authority by establishing your own personal authority in your own way to make your vision available to the social matrix surrounding you. I mean, how powerful is that? That's exactly what he's up to. So now we're going to go, if you're still with me, Neptune, okay, in the second house, but we're going to say it's in Capricorn. We're going to stick with the sign it's in. So Neptune in Capricorn gives a charming personality with an idealistic nature. You may achieve much in the helping professions or as a spiritual leader. You may also have a musical career. So there, you tend to give more than you receive in your employment and possess an almost naive idealism where your work is concerned. Your work must be spiritually satisfying or you will lose interest. And for me, I can see that this work to him is spiritually satisfying, bringing Carl Jung into the equation and saying the map of the soul persona. That's what's going on there. This is about spirituality. So there can be, you also have a tendency to avoid responsibility. I don't see that. Again, we evolve our birth charts, so do know that some of this is not going to apply because we grow and we learn and we change as we go through life. And it actually says, in your early years, especially regard with parental motivations, possibly. It says you may also may idolize parental figures, and the image that you have of your parents may change as you mature. In general, you must learn to clarify your goals, and you will not be content with an ordinary job. That's very clear. And they must seek out some career that is their real calling, which he has done. At your best, your highest ideals of society are to find true joy in your vocation. Okay, what's next? So I think we're nearly out of planets there. We've got Pluto. Okay, this is the final one apart from Chiron there. Okay, we've done them all now, which is really good. So the next one is Pluto, and Pluto is known as our soul in evolutionary astrology that I study. It's the soul, and that planet, as I said, it takes 248 years, I think, just to orb around a chart. So you can see he's 24, so in 24 years, that's moved from here to there. So if you said it was another 24 and then another 24, it's only going to go halfway around the chart for any of us, wherever it is in our chart. So then we've got Pluto, which is in Scorpio, and that's also a generation. And this gives you a serious and willful personality with an intense focus on personal transformation. You feel deeply, and you may have an almost psychic awareness of the feelings of others. You have strong desires and are single-minded about pursuing them. You may need to combat a tendency to manipulate others for your own purposes. You may also exhibit compulsive behavior around the issues of insisting that you get your own way. But clearly, again, we grow. So I don't want anybody to pick on one piece of this. You know, we always look at the totality of a chart because all of these aspects mean something. And I can only go so far in this video with what I'm explaining to you about his chart. You know, one can spend hours on a chart looking at every single aspect. So an aspect from these lines are trines, these are squares, that everything means something on a chart, even all of the little degrees around here. Everything counts on a chart. It's like reading music. It takes years to get to grasp what is going on and to know. And every day in astrology, you learn something new. when you look at a different person's chart, you're going to find out something different or learn something different about astrology. So let's go back to Pluto in Scorpio. You feel deeply and have a psychic awareness of feelings of others. You have strong desires, single-minded about pursuing them. So then it says you may, let's see, there is a tendency to project onto others the issues that you were called upon to deal with in yourself. And that's good, because sometimes, you know, he's coming from the place of love, and he's had to deal with that within himself, like he's had to learn to love himself. And as he's doing that, he's projecting that onto others. So that's a good projection. Not all projection is bad. So this is to do with our own inner temple, and to seek, which is inside us, to change the situation. You know, that life can be a battlefield, and it's when we change what's going on inside us that life gets easier. And then at the outside changes as we change inside. So this is about taking independent actions of the whole and entire self. You will likely to go through many changes in the course of your life as it unfolds. The challenges that you meet are for the ultimate purpose of allowing you to see more deeply into your own inner motivations. You may become fascinated with deeper reality than the surface. It benefits you to turn away from using power, your powerful presence, or it means use your powerful presence to regenerate your own life. That's what he's trying to say. Transforming any self-centeredness into a more spiritual sense of personal power. And I can see that he's done that. So what we're going to do now, this is Chiron, the wounded healer. This planet here takes 50 to 51 years to remove around the chart for all of us. And the movement, it happens for all of us. And this is about healing. And this is if it is in the 10th house, but we definitely know it's in Virgo. So we're going to say that Chiron in Virgo, if you can bear with me, Chiron in Virgo represents issues with one's vital force of improving and organizing more efficient ways to serve self and others. With this placement, you are more or less compulsively drawn to the issues of organization and personal and humanitarian sickness and health, as well as service to other people. So he's concerned about his own health and well-being in a good way, we can see, and that of society. So the mental health of society, that's what's come out of this group, that he's assisted people to take action to help other people with mental health issues. You may experience some degree of suffering through ill health, which we can all do at some point in our lives, and either real or imagined, or through overdoing. You know, if we overdo it and we expend too much energy, then we've got to look after ourselves as well. So it's about managing and organizing ourselves. You may experience realizations and the possibility of perfection in this lifetime. So it's trying to understand that there is no perfection. Like you know, we can try and keep everything perfect, and we can get obsessed about things being perfect, but we are perfect the way we are in our imperfections. These issues that we can have with this placement in Chiron can come from childhood, and it can be where we've been challenged and developing feelings of self-worth, so that issues of making ourselves available to others becomes both a habit and a source of pain. So we've got to have balance. You know, it's so very okay to give and be of service, but we also need time for ourselves to regenerate our own time and healing. You know, healing doesn't mean we're unwell. Healing can just mean that we need to take time out for ourselves as well. So it says of these issues may operate more at a level of fantasy and imagination, which he clearly has got, you know, beautiful imagination with the work that he's been doing. It is important to get as conscious as possible with any issues or events in life. And we mustn't keep things locked away. But I can honestly say from my view that anybody looking at Carl Jung's work is awakening. We're waking up, because that's what Carl Jung suggested people do. You know, he said you've got to look at your shadow. You've got to look at yourselves in order to heal. And when we start looking at ourselves and stop looking out there, and we begin to verbally ventilate and talk to people and share about our experience, we begin to heal like minds. So this is about deep healing. This placement, Chiron in Virgo, is about deep healing, enabling you to be of true service to others as you operate from a place of joy and well-being rather than from resentment, any resentment. So, you know, it's very good for us that as we heal, we let go of our resentments towards other people as we process, because life is about processing pain where there has been pain. And it says, it's also where, as we heal, that we can nourish ourselves with exactly what we need, and then when we're nourished, where we can help others. So there you go. So I could go on, and you might want more from this chart, but I'll just, in my opinion, you know, this is a very special role, and that he's carrying out in this world. And, you know, clearly I could go further with some of these aspects and things like that, but I think this is a good starter video for anybody out there who's interested in understanding where he's coming from as a human being. But I think it seems to be quite clear currently from what I've seen on YouTube and such like, and the things that I've read. Thank you so much for watching. If you've got any questions, then you can definitely leave, you know, below the video. I'm going to go to my next slide. You can basically contact me. This is my email. If you've got any questions as well, I'm okay for emails or comments below the YouTube video. And you can ask any questions you've got about what I've showed you. And I'm also on Facebook, and I'll put the link always below my videos. And I'm also planning on doing live streams, and if you're interested in other videos, live streams and other charts I'll be reading. And maybe there's, if any of you request other band members, then I'm quite happy to have a look. And clearly, if I have the birth time, it'll be the greatest thing ever, because it just makes it so much easier and to define. For instance, I was born on the 21st of May, and my birth time was 8:30 p.m. And if we know that we need the date, time, place, and year, is that right? Date, time, place, and year. And it's quite easy to get a chart. I can explain how you can get, I'll put a link where you can get your own chart as well, and look at one like I've just showed you. Okay, that's it. I'm going to stop share. That's it. And I really thank you for watching, and any questions, leave below. Thank you.